Congress will probably never see Trump's tapes of his conversations with Comey. This post has been updated with comments from the White House about handling over tapes. Spicer refuses to answer questions about White House tapes. Top Democrats and Republicans in Congress may say they want to get their hands on any tapes President Trump may have made of his conversations with FBI Director James B. Comey, which could lend clues as to why Trump fired him. And if the president won't hand them over, Congress would force him to. But almost no one in Congress seems willing to take that step. First, how Congress could get the tapes. House Democrats have already sent a letter to the White House asking for them. But on Monday, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer wouldn't even acknowledge the tapes exist, much less agree to give them to Congress. Spicer said the president has nothing further on the tapes beyond his extraordinary tweet Friday suggesting he or someone else recorded his conversations with Comey. Donald Trump's tweet, James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. Congress could require Trump to prove they exist. Listen to this crap. Congress could require Trump to prove they exist by issuing a subpoena to hand them over. Look at what Trump says. James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. In other words, he's saying James Comey better not have taped me and start leaking things to the press. Not I have tapes of James Comey. Unbelievable. Congress could require Trump to prove they exist by issuing a subpoena to hand them over. A subpoena would essentially put the president afoul of the law if he doesn't give Congress the recordings. Do you understand what they're asking for, what they're saying? But issuing a subpoena is a serious thing, and it requires both Democrats and Republicans to agree to it. The Senate Intelligence Committee recently issued a subpoena to force Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn, to hand over documents related to the committee's Russia investigation. The subpoena handed after Trump had dropped Flynn like a hotcake, and there's no indication Republicans are willing to put their president on the spot like they have Flynn. In fact, very few Democrats are even talking about a subpoena. Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the most vocal Republicans in the Senate to be asking for the tapes, seems interested in forcing Trump to hand them over. You can't be cute about tapes. If there are any tapes of this conversation, they need to be turned over, Graham told NBC Television's Meet the Press on Sunday. But Graham didn't say whether he'd support a subpoena to get the tapes. His office declined to elaborate, except to point to the fact that the subpoenas are traditionally used for criminal investigations, and Trump's firing of his FBI director is not one. Senator Mike Lee, Republican of Utah, appears to be the only Senate Republican open to a subpoena. He told Fox News Sunday, "I think it's probably inevitable at this point. In fact, if in fact there are such recordings, I think those recordings will be subpoenaed, and I think they will probably have to turn them over." During the Sunday show circuit, Senator Mark Warner, a Democrat of Virginia, the top Democrat of the Senate Intelligence Committee, was one of the few Senate Democrats talking subpoena. A subpoena isn't Congress's only tool to force Trump's hand. It could also vote to hold the president in contempt of Congress, or even use a long dormant power to hold him or people involved in the taping in jail until he complies. All of this would obviously be significant escalation between Congress and the White House, and since no one in Washington is even sure if Trump actually recorded his conversations with Comey, you can see why Republicans seem averse to entertaining the idea of subpoenaing the president. It could be a huge battle over nothing, really. An important caveat: Democrats don't need all Republicans in Congress to help them force Trump to hand over tapes, call the president's bluff. They only need a handful of Republicans. Let's look at the Senate, where most of the conversations about the tapes seem to be centered for how this could work. 1. The chair of a committee that oversees the FBI agrees to issue a subpoena. The two committees that have jurisdiction over the FBI are the Senate Intelligence and Senate Judiciary Committee. But since Republicans control Congress, both are controlled by Republicans. Senator Richard Burr of North Carolina and Charles E. Grassley of Iowa, respectively, and neither has expressed any interest in subpoenaing the president. Neither has even indicated they want to see the tapes. Unbelievable. 2. A majority of committee members vote to issue a subpoena. In the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is investigating Trump-Russia ties, that would mean all departments and at least one Republican would have to vote to issue a subpoena. In the Senate Judiciary Committee, which Graham and Lee sit on, Democrats would need at least 2 Republicans to join them. But here, 2 Republicans have the upper hand on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Democrats' most sympathetic ear would probably be Graham or Lee. For now, Graham doesn't seem supportive of the idea. The bottom line: anyone in Congress who wants to see Trump's tapes will have to rely on the power of persuasion to get Trump to hand them over, or hope that Republicans suddenly see a political upside to putting their president on the spot and or calling his bluff. Let's take a quick listen to what Sean Spicer and then Graham said. Is it playing?
You know, several Republicans have joined Democrats in seeking additional information from the White House in writing about the existence of any tapes, producing the tapes, and any further information about the potential taping of conversations. Is the White House intending to cooperate with those requests and furnish that information as requested in writing?
I think I made it clear last week that the president has nothing further on that. Hunter.
Wait, Sean. Does that mean that the president will deny?
I think that I said, I was very clear that the president would have nothing further on that last week.
This critical situation which the president would defy the legislative branch's request. That's what you're saying.
Alexis, I made it clear what the president's position is on that issue.
Okay, let's take a quick, I guess
Welcome.
not. They put a commercial
So
here,
when you take the job, all
and nobody wants to see it.
Over the weekend, a lot of complaints from Democrats about the Comey replacement process. First of all, that Jeff Sessions is...
Sorry about that, folks. Let's take a listen to Lindsey Graham.
You're a brave man, Mr. Stevens. Your testimony.
I had no idea they're going to put a commercial
I think
there.
it's time to call the FBI director before the country at large and explain what happened to that dinner. And if there are any tapes, they have to be turned over. You can't be cute about tapes. If there are any tapes of this conversation, they need to be turned over. I doubt if there are, but we need to clear their air there also.
Look, if there are tapes, the president should turn them over immediately. Of course, to destroy them would be a violation of law, but he should turn them over to Congress and to the investigators.
We're not hearing!
He should apologize to both Jim Comey and the American people for misleading them.
When we've seen presidents who secretly tape, that usually does not end up being a good outcome for a president. And if there is the existence of tapes, I want to make sure, one, they're preserved and not mysteriously destroyed in the coming days, and then two, one way or the other, Congress will have to get a look at those tapes.
If in fact there are such recordings, I think those recordings will be subpoenaed, and I think they'll probably have to turn them over. We know that there have been instances in the past in which other presidents have made recordings of conversations that have taken place at the White House. And as was made clear earlier in the show, it doesn't always turn out well. It's not necessarily the best idea.
If there are tapes, of course, that would be the best evidence of what took place. If they exist, Congress needs to get them. If they're not provided willingly, Congress should subpoena them. And if they're not in existence, if this was yet another fabrication by the president, he needs to come clean about it.
Everyone works at the pleasure of the president, and that's what, we have to remember is if he doesn't feel comfortable, he can do something about it.
Did you ever assume that you were being taped in the White House?
I did not, but I assume I'm being taped everywhere, so I never worry about that.
Would the U.S. intelligence community be aware of any such recordings or any devices?
I can't say. I would hope so. Certainly from a security standpoint, nothing else. I don't believe there was one in the administration I served in. I certainly can't comment on this one.
Unbelievable. Notice that they all were saying if they exist.
It is a big day for basketball as Anton Miller is getting ready to sign a one-hit.
Notice that
several Republicans.
Notice they were saying, sorry about that, folks. Notice that they were saying if the tapes existed. Notice. Trump didn't say he taped Comey. He's saying Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts. These people are looking like total idiots, total morons. But notice how fast they're putting everything into motion. I mean, where is the motion for Hillary and Obama's wrongdoings? Really? Really? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.